Hello YouTube, I'm Justin the Red, and what we got on this video is a deer process. We've got it skin out, blood out and everything. What we're going to do is start taking it apart, and I'll show you how to do that and how to make each individual cut on the meat. Actually, the back straps on this deer stay whole, so do the tenderloins, but I'm going to show you how to take them out. Everything else is a grind, so I can cut some steaks up out of the hind quarter, show you all how to do that. So first thing we're going to do is right here, we've got the front quarter. What I like to use is a long knife here, and I'll make a cut right there. That way I can put my thumb there and hang on to this because it's wet and slippery and you don't want to lose it. And then I'm going to come here, I'm going to push a little bit where I can get this knife in here, start taking off this shoulder. Now there's no socket here. There's only tissue that you cut behind. You cut behind that shoulder blade you see right there. Now this ain't good for nothing but deboning and grinding the meat off of, so I'm going to set this over here. And that's where it's going to sit. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this hind quarter. Now when you got a deer like this, or even if you got it hanging from the neck and that's the other way, what I find to be the best method is you'll take your knife, go right here between that tendon. Now you've got a hand hold or thumb hold. Pull this down, cut right here in the flank. You get down to the ball socket. You can see I'm right here. You got one little tendon that's holding that socket. Now it's severed. Now you move around, cut around the housing of that ball socket. A little bony, so you got to peel it out. There you go. That's one separated hind quarter. That saves you from having to get bone chips in your meat. You don't have to use a saw to cut through the bone. Set this over here. We'll turn that into steaks here in a minute. I'm going to switch knives. I've got my little curved skinning knife here. I'm going to cut down this flank meat. Get that out of the way a little bit. In here we've got our tenderloins. They start up here, they end down here. On a cow, that would be your filet mignon. I'm going to try and get this fat out of the way. If it gets cold, it can get hard to deal with. Alright, the way I do this is I'll start up here, cut that very top, and then I'm going to move along the inside of that tenderloin. That gets everything separated from the spine. Then I can just go in, pull it loose. Just like that. You've got your nice little tenderloin right there. Set that over here. They want them holes, so we ain't gonna mess with them. Now, you want to do that first, because the next thing I'm gonna do is take out the back strap, and what I've got to do is cut right through here. And if you don't remove that tenderloin first, you're going to cut through a quarter of it. You don't want to do that if you want tenderloins whole. So here's your back strap. Here's my starting place. That's right here at the flank, right there at the beginning of the hind quarter. So I've cut that way. Now I'm going to follow it. Follow the spine. You can see the spine right down through here. I'll go all the way down that spine. You also have to have the front quarter removed before you do this, because you're going to take it all the way down here where it would be behind the shoulder blade. Now what you'll do is come around, you'll find those short ribs right there. You want to get as much meat as you can for your back straps. And just follow on down, kind of feel the ribs as you go. All the way down the length of the animal. Okay, now it's the same thing. You can pretty much do the rest by hand. Once you got a good cut. And there's your back strap. See, I left a little meat, not much. It's hard not to leave a little. There's your back strap. That goes right there. All right. Rest of that deer, what you've got here is you've got your ribs. Now I'll go between each individual rib and I'll bone out just like that. I'll go out, get that rib cage on the table and I'll bone it out. And you'll have that rib meat. That one fell on the floor, so it's gone. Bone out that rib meat like that. You'll have strips and it'll make a lot more hamburger than you think. So you want to go ahead and bone out those ribs. It's a little bit tedious, but you'll get more meat than you think. All right, we'll do the rest of this later. I've got all I need to show you how to do the steaks now. And we'll process the rest of that later. Move over here. Now I've got my hind quarter. What I'm going to do now is switch knives. This old knife is my grandfather's knife. J.A. Hinkles, Germany. If you can get J.A. Hinkles, always get the German knives, don't get the Chinese ones. I'm going to take this excess tissue off of here. There ain't too much on this deer, so my work's pretty much cut out for me. Yeah, this one's good and clean. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn this hind quarter up like that. You see I've got my hands there by the Achilles tendon. You'll come down, take that out. Come in, you'll feel the bone, you'll work right down the bone. Once you get to this joint, you got a little bit of a knot there, so you're going to have to turn your knife, go around it, come back in. Then you go back down the bone. You can feel it as you cut. Now you've got a big chunk of meat to deal with. Now most of this is all different strands of muscle. It's tough as a boot. Can't do much with it. I just suggest cut that off. Cut that into smaller pieces and grind it. Since I've been going up against the bone, I'm going to use this steel to straighten my blade out again. That blade will get bent over, and that's all that steel does is straighten it out so it's still sharp. And you're going to cut here. See, I'm separating the muscle groups here. And see, I'm trying not to go into the meat, I'm trying to go between it. Take off the fat, put this over here. You got your biggest piece here. Now you can make you a good roast out of that right there if you want to. That's about a 2.5 pound roast. About a 2 pound roast. Then you're going to take off that little cap of meat right there. And I'm going to take off this little side piece of meat, and all that's grind. Now what we've got is our round. We can cut little round steaks out of course, on deer if it's small. Now you'll notice that grain is running that way. You can see the lines there. So that means we're going to cut perpendicular to that grain, across the grain, as they say. That end is nothing. This is going to be steak right here. That's deer steak, a round steak, and that's ready for the tenderizer. We got a fly in here, it looks like. Good little steaks. Alright, y'all get the picture. This is just an example because on that deer it's going to be a grind. It's going to all get ground up. Over here, got this other muscle. This would be the eye of round, this little long muscle here. The grain is running this way, so naturally we're going to cut it that way. You got little medallions like that. Put those on a kebab. If you ain't going to hang this deer for a week or two, it's going to be pretty tough unless you run it through the tenderizer. So I would suggest whatever you do with a deer, you tenderize it. Most people don't hang them like they do a beef. That's good enough to grind, that's trash. Now we got this other little funny muscle. You can see on the back side of it which way our grain is running. It runs at an angle. You've got to really pay attention to that. Cut them just like that. A little piece here, that's a different muscle group, so it's running a different way. You can notice that once you get it cut. You know what to trim off. And you've got little steaks. Nothing's big on a deer, but it is delicious. All right, there's that. Now, I'm going to take a little bit off of this. And go back to this knee joint. I can't even bend it. It's so stiff. Right here, and you'll hit the bone. You're going to follow up to the hip socket. Take off this next muscle group. What we've got here is a good little roast where you can go ahead and cut that into steaks as well. Now this, you definitely want to mechanically tenderize because it is 3 different muscle groups and they run a little bit different ways. You've got 3 big muscles running here. You'll see once I cut it. You can see we've got one here, and one here. This one runs at an angle, this one runs at a little bit of an angle, and this one runs this way. Makes good steaks, but you're going to have to tenderize the heck out of it. I wouldn't even suggest using this piece of meat as steaks if you aged it. I would suggest only using this piece as steaks if you're going to tenderize it mechanically. Alright, there's how to make steaks out of the hindquarters. Like I said, the front quarter is really only good for making a roast. You can make a roast out of it. It's not going to be very big. Or you can debone it and grind it up. All right. Any questions? Just leave a comment, and that's all for this particular animal. The rest I'll do later. Thanks for joining us. Shalom.